She noticed what 100 doctors missed. A 26-year-old maid saw symptoms everyone ignored and ended up saving the Mafia boss's son from a deadly condition no one else could diagnose. What she didn't know was that her observation would change all their lives forever. The alarm clock screamed at 5:30 a.m., its shrill beeping cutting through the darkness of Claire Hartley's studio apartment like a knife. She reached out from under the thin blanket, fingers fumbling across the nightstand until they found the button. Silence fell again, broken only by the rhythmic snoring of Mrs. Patterson in the apartment next door. The walls were that thin. Claire sat up slowly, careful not to let the bed frame creak. The mattress was old, springs digging into her back every night. But it was hers. Well, half hers. She split the $680 rent with Mrs. Patterson, her 74-year-old neighbor who'd taken pity on her 6 months ago. The floor was cold against her bare feet as she padded across the 12-by-12 room that served as bedroom, living room, and kitchen combined. She dressed in the dark, pulling on the plain black uniform she'd hand-washed the night before. The fabric was still slightly damp, but it would dry on the bus ride. On the counter sat an envelope. Red letters stamped across the front. Final notice. Electric bill. $127 she didn't have. Due today. Claire folded it carefully and tucked it into her bag. She'd figure it out. She always did. The memory hit her as she tied her hair back. Her mother's hands showing her how to check a pulse, how to watch for signs of distress, how to read a body's silent signals. People don't always say when they're hurting, Claire. You have to look. Really look. Her mother had been a nurse for 23 years before the cancer took her. Stage 4 by the time they caught it. No insurance, no money for treatments. Claire had been 19, watching her mother fade in a free clinic that smelled of bleach and defeat. That was 7 years ago. Sometimes it felt like yesterday. Claire shook the thought away and grabbed her bag. 3 buses to get from this neighborhood to the Winters estate. An hour and 40 minutes if traffic cooperated. She locked the door behind her and stepped into the pre-dawn cold. The buses took her through better neighborhoods as the morning progressed. Houses instead of apartment blocks. Trees lining the streets. Cars that started on the first try. The 3rd bus dropped her half a mile from the estate. She walked the rest, her worn sneakers crunching on gravel. The Winters estate appeared through the morning mist like something from a movie. Iron gates, 12 feet tall, flanked by stone pillars topped with security cameras. Beyond them, a driveway curved through manicured gardens toward a mansion that probably had more bathrooms than her entire apartment building had units. Claire pressed the intercom button. "Name," came a bored voice. "Claire Hartley, housekeeping." The gate buzzed and swung open. She walked through, keeping her head down. Cameras everywhere. People like her were meant to be invisible. The service entrance was around back, a plain door contrasting sharply with the grand columns of the main entrance. Claire swiped her badge and stepped into the staff corridor. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, harsh and sterile. "You're late." Helena Cross stood in the hallway, arms crossed over her pristine gray suit. The head housekeeper was 58, thin as a rail, with silver hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. Her eyes were the color of ice water, and just as warm. Claire checked her watch. 7:02 a.m. "I'm sorry, the bus. I don't care about your bus." Helena's voice could cut glass. "The upstairs bedrooms need to be finished by noon, all 12 of them. Fresh linens, dusting, floors, and the library. Mr. Winters has a meeting there at 2. 12 bedrooms in 5 hours. It was impossible, but Claire nodded. "Yes, ma'am." "Don't call me ma'am. It's Mrs. Cross." Helena turned and walked away, heels clicking against the tile like a countdown. Claire stood there for a moment, then headed for the supply closet. This was her 3rd week working here. Every day felt like a test she was designed to fail. "Don't let her get to you." The voice came from the kitchen doorway. Rosie, the cook, leaned against the frame with a coffee mug in her hand. She was 60-something, round and soft, where Helena was sharp, with warm brown skin and eyes that actually saw people. She treats everyone like that at first. "Does it get better?" Claire asked. Rosie smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Sometimes. Listen, sweetheart. Keep your head down, Do your work, don't ask questions. That's how you survive in a house like this. What kind of house is this? Rosie's smile faded entirely. The kind where you don't ask questions. She disappeared back into the kitchen. Claire gathered her supplies and headed upstairs. The second floor was a different world. Thick carpet that swallowed sound. Paintings on the walls that probably cost more than she'd earn in a lifetime. Doors leading to rooms she'd only glimpsed while cleaning. She started with the guest wing, working methodically. Stripped the bed, fresh sheets, hospital corners the way Helena demanded. Dust every surface. Vacuum in straight lines. Don't leave marks. It was mindless work, the kind that let thoughts drift. Claire found herself thinking about the electric bill, about Mrs. Patterson, who'd given her dinner last night, about her mother's voice. You have to look. Really look. She was cleaning the 8th bedroom when she heard it. A soft sound. Almost nothing. Like a sigh or a breath released. Claire paused, dustcloth in hand. The sound came again, from down the hall. She shouldn't investigate. She should finish her work, keep invisible, survive. But her feet carried her forward anyway. The library was at the end of the corridor, double doors slightly ajar. Claire pushed one open carefully. The room was massive, 2 stories tall with a spiral staircase leading to a second level of shelves. Books lined every wall, leather spines gleaming in the light from tall windows. In the center, leather chairs surrounded a fireplace cold and dark, and in one of those chairs, small and still, sat a boy. He couldn't have been more than 9 years old. Dark hair falling across his forehead, clothes expensive but rumpled. He was staring at a sketchbook in his lap, pencil moving slowly across the page. Claire started to back away, but something stopped her. The boy's skin was pale, almost gray in the morning light. Dark circles shadowed his eyes like bruises. And on the side table next to him sat 3 empty water bottles. 3 bottles. It wasn't even 8 in the morning. The boy looked up suddenly, and their eyes met. His were gray-blue, startling against the pallor of his face. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then he blinked and looked back down at his drawing, dismissing her. Claire backed out of the library and closed the door quietly. Her heart was pounding, though she couldn't say why. She finished the bedrooms in 4.5 hours, rushing through the last few. Helena inspected her work with narrowed eyes, found nothing to criticize, and dismissed her with a wave. Claire grabbed her bag and headed for the service entrance, ready to start the long journey home. But she couldn't stop thinking about the boy, about his pale skin and hollow eyes, about those 3 empty water bottles, about her mother's voice. You have to look. Really look. Something was wrong. She didn't know what, not yet. But something was very, very wrong. And for reasons she couldn't explain, Claire knew she couldn't just walk away. Thursday arrived with rain that turned the mansion's windows into rivers of gray. Claire had been working at the Winters estate for 3 weeks and 2 days, and she'd learned to navigate Helena's impossible demands, Rosie's kind warnings, and the invisible boundaries that separated people like her from people like them. But she hadn't been able to stop thinking about the boy. She'd seen him twice more since that first morning in the library. Once in the hallway, walking slowly like each step required thought. Once through a window, sitting alone in the garden. Both times, he'd been pale. Both times, he'd been drinking water. Claire was dusting the second-floor corridor when she heard it. Not a sound this time, but the absence of sound. A heavy silence that felt wrong. She paused. Dustcloth suspended in midair. The silence stretched. Then came a thud from down the hall. Dull. Final. The sound of something falling that shouldn't fall. Claire dropped the cloth and ran. The boy's bedroom door was ajar. She pushed it open and her breath caught. He was on the floor beside his bed, collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. His sketchbook lay open next to him, pencils scattered across the carpet. His chest rose and fell in shallow, rapid movements. "Hey." Claire dropped to her knees beside him. "Can you hear me?" His eyelids fluttered but didn't open. His skin was cold and clammy under her fingers when she checked his pulse. Fast. Too fast. "Someone help!" Claire's voice cracked as she shouted toward the open door. Footsteps pounded down the corridor. Helena appeared in the doorway, her face a mask of fury. "What did you do?" she demanded. "Nothing. I found him like this. He needs—" "Get out." Helena's voice was ice. "Now. But he needs—" "I said get out." Helena grabbed Claire's arm and hauled her to her feet. "This is not your concern." Claire stumbled backward into the hallway. Through the doorway, she watched Helena pull out her phone. 2 other staff members appeared and closed the door, shutting Claire out completely. She stood there, heart hammering, hands shaking. The boy's gray face, his shallow breathing, his cold skin. She shouldn't care. She should do what Helena said, go back to work, stay invisible. But her mother's voice was louder. "You have to look. Really look." Claire went back to work. But she watched. Over the next 3 days, she watched the boy like he was a puzzle she needed to solve. Not obviously. Not in a way that would get her fired. Just careful observation. The way her mother had taught her. Friday morning, she was cleaning the upstairs bathroom when she heard the toilet flush 8 times in 2 hours. The boy's room was next door. 8 times. Friday afternoon, she emptied the trash from his bedroom. 4 empty water bottles since that morning. Saturday, she changed his sheets and noticed they were soaked with sweat, despite the cool temperature. Sunday, she saw him in the garden. She was cleaning the conservatory windows and had a clear view. He was sitting on a stone bench, drinking from a water bottle. As she watched, he set it down and picked up a second one. 2 bottles in 15 minutes. Claire's hands stilled on the window. She watched the boy drink like he couldn't get enough. Watched him set it down and immediately reach for another. Excessive thirst. Excessive urination. Pale skin. Fatigue. The pieces clicked together in her mind with the clarity of her mother's voice listing symptoms. No, it couldn't be. Someone would have caught it. But as Claire watched, she saw him sway slightly on the bench. Saw him grip the edge to steady himself. Saw the way his clothes hung looser than 3 weeks ago. Weight loss. Another symptom. That evening, after her shift, Claire didn't go straight to the bus stop. She walked to the public library 3 blocks away and used their computer. She searched for 40 minutes, comparing symptoms, reading medical websites, checking and rechecking. The more she read, the more certain she became, and the more terrified. Monday morning, Claire arrived early. She was mopping the second-floor hallway when she heard voices from the library. "He's fine, Mr. Winters. Just a bit of fatigue." The voice was smooth, confident. Children his age often experience this after trauma. Losing his mother was a significant emotional event. He collapsed on Thursday. A second voice, deeper, edged with something dangerous. "That's not just fatigue. Stress can manifest physically. I've prescribed vitamins and recommended more outdoor activity. Fresh air, exercise. That's what Oliver needs." Claire moved closer. Through the partially open door, she could see 2 men. One in a suit that probably cost more than her annual salary, dark hair, rigid posture. The other older, silver-haired, wearing a white coat. "If there's no improvement in 2 weeks, we'll run more tests," the doctor was saying. "But I assure you this is nothing to worry about. You're certain. Completely certain. Oliver is going through a difficult adjustment period. Time and patience, that's all he needs." The man in the suit said nothing for a long moment. Then, "Fine. But I want weekly checkups." "Of course." Claire backed away before they could see her. The doctor was wrong. She knew he was wrong. But what could she do? She was a maid. Nobody would listen to her. That afternoon, she found herself in the garden at the same time as the boy. He was sitting on the bench, sketchbook in lap. Claire was trimming roses nearby, close enough to observe, close enough to act if needed. The boy swayed suddenly, pencil slipping from his fingers. Claire dropped her pruning shears and crossed to him in 3 strides. "Hey, are you okay?" He looked up at her with those gray-blue eyes, unfocused and confused. "I'm fine. You don't look fine." Claire knelt in front of him. "When did you last eat?" "Lunch, I think." His voice was faint. "I'm just tired. What about water? Are you thirsty?" "I'm always thirsty." The words came out frustrated, like an admission he hadn't meant to make. "I drink and drink, and it doesn't help. Nobody listens." Claire's suspicions crystallized into certainty. What's your name? Oliver. He blinked at her. Who are you? Claire, I work here. She hesitated, then reached into her pocket and pulled out a granola bar. Here, eat this. Why? Because your blood sugar is probably dropping and you need something in your system. Oliver stared at the granola bar, then took it and ate. Some color returned to his cheeks. Better? Claire asked. He nodded. Nobody ever... He trailed off. They all just tell me I'm fine. I'm paying attention, Claire said quietly. And I'm going to keep paying attention, okay? Oliver looked at her for a long moment. Then, so softly she almost missed it. Okay. Claire returned to her roses. But she didn't stop watching, and she didn't stop counting. 6 more bathroom trips before the end of her shift. 3 more water bottles. The way Oliver moved like he was wading through deep water. That night, lying on her mattress, Claire stared at the ceiling. Excessive thirst, excessive urination, weight loss, fatigue, blurred vision probably, sweet-smelling breath, though she hadn't been close enough to check. Every symptom pointed to one diagnosis. And if she was right, if nobody caught it soon, Oliver Winters was in serious danger. But she was just a maid. What could she possibly do? The answer came in her mother's voice. When you see someone hurting and nobody else is looking, you speak up, even if they don't want to hear it. Claire closed her eyes. She'd speak up. She had to. She just hoped someone would listen before it was too late. Sunday night bled into Monday morning, and Claire barely slept. 11 days had passed since Oliver's collapse. 11 days of watching him deteriorate while everyone insisted he was fine. She arrived at the mansion at 6:47 a.m., earlier than usual. The sky was still dark, stars fading into approaching dawn. Something felt wrong. There were more cars in the staff parking area than normal. Lights blazed from windows that should have been dark. Claire's stomach dropped. She pushed through the service entrance. The staff corridor was chaos. People rushing past, voices sharp with urgency. Rosie stood by the kitchen, her face pale. What happened? Claire grabbed her arm. It's Oliver. Rosie's voice shook. They called an ambulance, but Mr. Winters sent it away. He's got his own doctors here. Claire didn't wait. She ran. She took the stairs 2 at a time, heart slamming against her ribs. She could hear voices before she reached the 2nd floor. Raised voices. Panic barely held in check. Oliver's door was wide open. Claire stopped in the doorway, breathing hard. The bedroom looked like a medical ward. Monitors beeped erratically. IV stand. Oxygen tank. 6 people crowded around the bed where Oliver lay, small and gray against white sheets. His body convulsed suddenly, back arching off the mattress. Foam gathered at the corners of his mouth. The monitors shrieked. Hold him steady! A doctor in a white coat barked orders. Prepare the sedative. Blood pressure's dropping. Pulse is 140. He's seizing again. Claire knew what she was looking at. The rapid, deep breathing. The confusion. The way Oliver's chest heaved. Diabetic ketoacidosis. The body eating itself because it couldn't process sugar. Fatal if left untreated. And they were about to give him a sedative. Wait. The word came out before Claire could stop it. Every head turned toward her. Through the crowd, she saw him for the first time. The man in the black suit. Nathaniel Winters. He was tall, easily 6'2", with dark hair and eyes the same gray-blue as his son's. But where Oliver's eyes were soft, his were hard, cold. The eyes of someone who'd seen too much and felt too little. Those eyes fixed on Claire like a targeting system. Who the hell are you? His voice was quiet, dangerously quiet. Claire's throat went dry. Every instinct screamed at her to back away, but Oliver convulsed again, and her mother's voice was louder than her fear. I'm Claire Hartley. I work here. She forced herself to meet his gaze. And I think I know what's wrong with him. A doctor stepped forward. Silver hair, gold-rimmed glasses. Dr. Vincent Morrison, according to the name on his coat. This is a medical emergency, he said coldly. Not the concern of housekeeping staff. He needs insulin, not a sedative. Claire's voice came out steadier than she felt. He has diabetic ketoacidosis. The room went silent except for the monitors and Oliver's labored breathing. Morrison's face flushed red. That's absurd. This child has been under my care for months. Then why is he dying? Claire shot back. How dare you? Enough. Nathaniel's single word cut through the argument like a blade. He moved toward Claire, and she had to force herself not to step back. You're the maid, the one Oliver mentioned. Claire blinked. He mentioned me? He said someone was paying attention. Nathaniel's gaze pinned her in place. Explain. Now. Claire had 30 seconds to convince him. 30 seconds to save Oliver's life. He's been drinking water constantly. 6, 7 bottles a day. He's urinating every hour. He's lost at least 10 pounds in 3 weeks. His breath smells sweet. Those are textbook symptoms of type 1 diabetes. The words tumbled out fast. His body can't process glucose, so it's breaking down fat for energy. That produces ketones, which are acidic. Right now, his blood is too acidic. His organs are shutting down. A sedative will suppress his breathing further. He'll die. Morrison laughed. This is ludicrous. She's a maid with no medical training making wild diagnoses. Test his blood sugar, Claire interrupted, looking only at Nathaniel. Right now. If I'm wrong, I'll leave. But if I'm right, every second counts. Mr. Winters, I assure you this is completely... Test it. Nathaniel's voice was steel. Morrison's jaw clenched. This is a waste of time. Then it should be quick. Nathaniel didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. Test his blood sugar. Morrison snapped his fingers at a nurse. Blood glucose test. Now. The nurse moved quickly, pricking Oliver's finger, applying blood to a test strip, sliding it into a meter. Everyone waited. The only sounds were the monitors and Oliver's desperate breathing. The meter beeped. The nurse stared at the screen. Her face went white. 620. That's not possible, Morrison said. Test again. 620 Madarmon, DL, the nurse repeated. Normal range is 70 to 100. The room erupted. Doctors shouting orders, nurses scrambling. Someone yelled for insulin. Someone else for IV fluids. Claire backed toward the door, her legs weak. She'd been right. She'd been right, and nobody had listened. A hand caught her arm. She looked up into Nathaniel Winters' face. Up close, she could see the fear beneath the ice. The terror of a father watching his son die. You saved him. His grip was tight enough to bruise. How did you know? My mother was a nurse. She taught me to look for signs. Claire's voice was barely above a whisper. I've been watching him for 2 weeks. I saw the symptoms. Nathaniel stared at her for a long moment. Then he released her arm and turned back to his son. Oliver was being stabilized. IV line pumping fluids and insulin. Oxygen mask over his face. Color slowly returning to his cheeks. Morrison stood to the side, his face ashen. It's an easy condition to miss in the early stages. Get out. Nathaniel's voice was soft. Deadly. Mr. Winters, I've been your family's physician for... You've been fired. Leave my house before I have you removed. Morrison walked out without another word. Claire started to follow, to slip away. But Nathaniel spoke again. Not you. Stay. So Claire stayed. She stood in the doorway and watched doctors work to save a 9-year-old boy who'd been slowly dying while everyone looked but didn't see. 2 hours later, Oliver's eyes fluttered open. He was weak, disoriented, but alive. Stable. Nathaniel sat beside the bed, holding his son's hand. His shoulders, rigid with tension, finally dropped. He pressed his forehead against Oliver's hand, and for just a moment, he looked like any other father. Then he looked up and saw Claire still standing there. You saved my son's life. He said it like he was trying to understand a foreign language. You're a maid, and you saved my son when doctors couldn't. Claire didn't know what to say. Nathaniel stood slowly, crossed the room until he stood in front of her. She had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Who taught you this? My mother was a nurse. I grew up watching her work. Claire's voice was quiet. She died 7 years ago. Cancer. We couldn't afford treatment. Something flickered in Nathaniel's expression. Understanding, maybe. What's your name again? Claire Hartley. Claire Hartley. He repeated it slowly. I don't forget debts, and I owe you the biggest one possible. I don't want anything. I just wanted him to be okay. Why? The question was sharp. He's not your responsibility. Claire thought about that. About the boy sitting alone. About the way nobody really looked at him. About her mother's voice. Because someone should, she said finally. Nathaniel stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded once. Stay until he wakes up properly. He'll want to see you. It wasn't a request. Claire stayed. 2 days after saving Oliver's life, Claire was summoned to Nathaniel Winters' office. The message came through Helena, whose face was a mask of barely concealed resentment. Mr. Winters wants to see you. His private office. Now. Claire's stomach twisted. She'd been trying to stay invisible since Sunday, going back to her regular duties, pretending nothing had changed. But everything had changed. The office was on the first floor, down a hallway she'd never been allowed to enter. Dark wood panels, oil paintings, the kind of silence that felt expensive. She knocked twice. Come in. The office was exactly what she'd expected. Massive mahogany desk, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, windows overlooking the gardens. And behind the desk, Nathaniel Winters in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her car. If she had a car. He was on the phone when she entered, speaking in low tones. I don't care what it takes. Find him. A pause. No, I want him alive. For now. He hung up without saying goodbye. Claire stood by the door, hands clasped in front of her. Nathaniel gestured to the chair across from his desk. Sit. Claire sat. The leather chair was soft, expensive. She'd never felt more out of place. Oliver's stable, Nathaniel said without preamble. The new doctor says his blood sugar levels are responding well to insulin. They're teaching him how to manage it. He paused. He's asking for you. How is he feeling? Better than he has in months, apparently. Something flickered across Nathaniel's face. Not quite a smile. He drew a picture of you. Gave it to me this morning. Said to give it to the lady who actually looked at him. Claire's throat tightened. I'm glad he's doing better. That's not why I called you here. Nathaniel leaned back in his chair, studying her with those cold gray eyes. Oliver needs someone who knows what to look for. Someone who gives a damn. The doctors can manage the medical side, but he needs someone with him. Full time. Claire's pulse quickened. You want me to be his nurse? Caregiver. Nurse implies qualifications you don't have, but you have something better. Instinct. Attention. He tapped a folder on his desk. I had you investigated. Claire Marie Hartley, 26 years old. Mother died of cancer when you were 19. Father left when you were 3. No siblings. No criminal record. Currently sharing a studio apartment with a 74-year-old woman to afford rent. The invasion of privacy should have made her angry. Instead, Claire just felt exposed. You investigated me. I investigate everyone who gets close to my son. He stopped, especially after what happened to his mother. Claire remembered what Rosie had told her in whispers, that Oliver's mother had died 4 years ago, that nobody talked about it. I'm offering you a job, Nathaniel continued. Oliver's full-time caregiver. You'll manage his diabetes, monitor his health, make sure he's actually taking care of himself. You'll be with him throughout the day, accompany him to appointments, be available if there's an emergency. I'm not qualified. You saved his life when qualified people failed. That's qualification enough. Nathaniel slid a paper across the desk. $4,500 a month. You'll live here in the family wing, not the staff quarters. Private room, bathroom. Meals provided. Full medical insurance. Claire stared at the paper. $4,500. She was currently making 1-200 cleaning houses. Why? She asked. You could hire an actual nurse, someone with credentials, because Oliver trusts you, and my son doesn't trust easily. Nathaniel's expression hardened. And because I need someone who sees him as a person, not a paycheck or a task. Claire looked at the contract, at the salary that would change her life, at the chance to help Oliver. What's the catch? The catch. Nathaniel's smile was sharp. You live in my world now. You see things, hear things. People come to this house who aren't exactly upstanding citizens. You don't ask questions. You don't repeat what you see or hear, ever, to anyone. You want me to ignore whatever illegal things happen under this roof. I want you to focus on my son and nothing else. What I do, who I meet, what business I conduct. None of your concern. His eyes locked on hers. But if you betray that trust, if you put Oliver in danger by running your mouth, you'll regret it. Am I clear? The threat hung in the air. Claire should have been terrified. She was terrified, but she was also thinking about Oliver's gray face, about the way he'd said, "Nobody listens." "I need to be able to say no," Claire said quietly. "If you ask me to do something that puts Oliver at risk, I need to be able to say no." Nathaniel's eyebrows rose slightly. "You're negotiating." "I'm setting boundaries. If I'm responsible for his health, I need the authority to act in his best interests." For a moment, she thought he'd tell her to leave. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. It was a rusty sound, like something unused for years. "Fine. You have authority over Oliver's health and welfare. I don't interfere with your decisions there. But everything else? My rules." He pushed a pen across the desk. "Do we have a deal?" Claire picked up the pen. Her hand trembled slightly. This was insane. She'd be living in the house of a man who casually talked about finding people and keeping them alive. For now. But Oliver needed someone. And maybe she needed this too. She signed her name at the bottom of the contract. Nathaniel took the paper back, glanced at her signature and nodded. "You start immediately. I'll have someone move your things from your apartment. I need to tell Mrs. Patterson. She's my roommate. I'll have someone handle it. You're needed here." He stood. "Helena will show you to your new room. It's next to Oliver's. There's a connecting door in case of emergencies." Claire stood on shaky legs. This was happening. This was really happening. She was halfway to the door when Nathaniel spoke again. "Claire." She turned. "Thank you." The words sounded foreign in his mouth. "For saving him." Claire nodded, not trusting her voice, and left. Helena was waiting in the hallway, her face carefully blank. "This way." They took the main staircase this time, not the servants' stairs. The message was clear. Claire wasn't staff anymore. The room was on the second floor, 3 doors down from Oliver's. Helena opened it without ceremony. It was bigger than Claire's entire apartment. King bed with a thick comforter. Private bathroom with a tub and separate shower. A desk, a reading chair by the window. "Dinner is at 7, Helena said coldly. "You'll eat with the family now. In the dining room, not the kitchen." She emphasized family like it tasted bitter. "Mr. Winters expects punctuality." "Thank you, Mrs. Cross." Helena's lips thinned. "A word of advice. Don't get comfortable. People in this house who think they're special tend to discover they're not, usually when it's too late." She left before Claire could respond. Claire stood alone in her new room, watching dust motes dance in the afternoon light. Her life had just changed completely. She'd gone from invisible maid to living in the family wing, responsible for a child's life. A knock on the connecting door made her jump. "Claire?" Oliver's voice, muffled through wood. "Are you there?" She crossed the room and opened the door. Oliver stood there in pajamas, looking thin, but healthier than she'd ever seen him. Color in his cheeks, light in his eyes. He held out a piece of paper. "I made this for you. Dad said you're staying now, that you're going to help me." Claire took the drawing. It showed 2 stick figures, one tall, one short. They were holding hands. Above them, Oliver had written in careful letters, "Claire sees me." Her vision blurred. "Yeah," she said softly. "I'm staying, if that's okay with you." Oliver's smile was brighter than the sun. "It's okay with me." And just like that, Claire Hartley's old life ended, and her new one began. 3 weeks passed in a rhythm Claire never expected to find. Every morning started the same. Claire would wake at 6:30 a.m., check the glucose monitor app on her phone, then knock softly on the connecting door. "Come in," Oliver would call, already awake, sketchbook in his lap. Together, they'd test his blood sugar, prick his finger, wait for the meter to beep, record the number, then calculate insulin based on breakfast. It had been terrifying at first, the weight of keeping a child alive. But Oliver was a quick learner. 94, Claire read from the meter. That's perfect. Oliver grinned. Can I have pancakes? Count the carbs first. He did the math in his head, calculating insulin units the way other kids calculated video game scores. 2 units? 2.5. The syrup adds more than you think. They'd established routines. Oliver chose stickers for his glucose sensors. Dinosaurs 1 week, planets the next. He named his insulin pens. Currently, he was using Captain Needle and the Terminator. Breakfast was in the sunroom now. Just Claire and Oliver, talking about his drawings or the book they were reading together. Nathaniel joined them twice a week, sitting at the head of the table in his suit, looking slightly out of place among the morning light. This morning was one of those mornings. Nathaniel walked in at 7:15, phone in one hand, coffee in the other. He looked tired. Claire had learned to read the signs. Tired meant late-night meetings. Morning, Dad. Oliver looked up from his pancakes. Morning. Nathaniel sat down, and Rosie immediately appeared with eggs. How are your levels? 94 this morning. Claire says that's really good. Nathaniel's eyes shifted to Claire. It is. You're doing well. We're going for a walk after breakfast, Claire said. The exercise helps keep his blood sugar stable. Take Murphy with you. Nathaniel didn't look up from his phone. Security. Claire had met Murphy. 6'4", former military, carried a gun under his jacket. She still wasn't used to needing a bodyguard for the garden. After breakfast, Claire and Oliver walked the grounds. Murphy followed at a distance. Oliver talked about school, which he'd be returning to next week. What if I have a low blood sugar episode? Oliver asked. Then you tell your teacher, check your glucose, and eat the snacks we packed. You know what to do. What if the other kids think I'm weird? Claire knelt down to his level. Some might. But the right kids will see past the diabetes to the person who draws incredible pictures and knows every constellation. Oliver looked down at his shoes. My mom used to say stuff like that. It was the first time he'd mentioned her. Claire held her breath. She'd read to me every night. Oliver continued softly. And she'd sit with me in the garden and name all the flowers. He looked up at Claire. Do you think she'd be mad? That I'm letting you do the stuff she used to do? Claire's chest tightened. I think she'd be grateful someone's taking care of you. And I'm not replacing her, Oliver. Nobody could. I'm just here. Oliver nodded slowly. Then he reached out and took her hand. They walked back in comfortable silence, Murphy trailing behind. Lunch was routine now. Blood sugar check, carb counting, insulin injection. But Oliver did most of it himself, with Claire supervising. Independence was important. Afternoons were for homework and art. Oliver would work on assignments while Claire sat nearby, reading or researching diabetes management. Sometimes they'd talk. Sometimes they'd work in silence. Both felt natural. This afternoon, Nathaniel appeared in the library doorway. Oliver, Murphy's going to take you to the shooting range. You've been asking. Oliver's face lit up. Really? Real guns. Not BB guns. But Murphy's rules, understood. Understood! Oliver scrambled to grab his jacket and ran out with Murphy. Nathaniel stayed. Walk with me. It wasn't a request. They walked through the garden, past the rose bushes and fountain. Nathaniel was silent for a long moment. He's doing better, he said finally. Better than I've seen him since his mother died. He's a resilient kid. He trusts you. Nathaniel stopped by the fountain. He told me yesterday that you remind him of her, of his mother. Claire didn't know what to say. Catherine was gentle. Nathaniel continued, his voice softer than Claire had ever heard it. She saw good in people. When Oliver got sick and nobody could figure out why, she would have caught it. She would have seen what you saw. He paused. She died 4 years ago. Car accident. At least that's what the police report said. You don't believe it was an accident. I know it wasn't. His voice hardened. Someone tampered with her brakes. Sent a message to me. I never found out who. But I've spent 4 years making sure Oliver is protected. Claire understood then. The guards, the security, the paranoia. Nathaniel wasn't just protecting his son. He was trying to prevent history from repeating. He needs both, Claire said quietly. Safety and childhood. You're giving him safety. Let me give him the rest. Nathaniel looked at her for a long moment. You're good at this. At seeing what people need. My mother taught me well. She'd be proud of you. The words hit harder than Claire expected. She had to look away, blinking against sudden tears. They walked back in silence. At the door, Nathaniel paused. We're having dinner together tonight. The three of us. The dining room. Is there an occasion? No. He hesitated. I just want to. Oliver would like it. So would I. It was the most personal thing he'd ever said to her. That evening, Claire put on the one nice dress she owned. Navy blue, simple, probably still too casual. But it was all she had. She found Oliver already at the table, fidgeting with his napkin. He'd dressed up too. Button-down shirt, hair combed. You look nice, Claire said. So do you. Oliver smiled. Dad says this is a family dinner. Are we a family now? Claire sat down next to him. I don't know. Maybe. Would that be okay? Yeah, Oliver said softly. That'd be okay. Nathaniel arrived minus the phone for once. He'd changed into a black sweater instead of his usual suit. It made him look younger. Less intimidating. Dinner was pasta. They talked about Oliver's upcoming return to school, about his drawings, about a documentary on space he wanted to watch. At one point, Oliver excused himself to the bathroom. Claire started to stand, but Nathaniel gestured for her to stay. He can go 20 feet on his own, he said with the ghost of a smile. When Oliver returned, he had something behind his back. I made something, he announced. He pulled out a drawing and set it on the table. It showed 3 figures, a tall man, a woman, and a boy in the middle. They were standing in front of a house, and above them Oliver had drawn stars. Under the drawing, my family. Claire's vision blurred. She looked at Nathaniel and saw something raw in his expression. Grief, maybe, or hope. It's beautiful, Nathaniel said, his voice rough. Can I keep it? It's for both of you, Oliver said. To share. After Oliver went to bed, Claire stood in her room, looking at the photo she'd taken of the drawing. 3 figures. A family. She thought about her mother, about Mrs. Patterson, about the tiny apartment. That life felt like it belonged to someone else now. A knock on her door surprised her. Nathaniel stood in the hallway, still in the black sweater, looking uncertain in a way she'd never seen. Thank you, he said, for giving him that, for giving us that. I didn't do anything special. I just paid attention. That's everything. He paused. You're not just his caregiver anymore, Claire. You're part of this. Part of us. I need you to know that. Claire nodded, not trusting her voice. Nathaniel turned to leave, then stopped. And Claire, if anything ever happens, if there's ever danger, you protect him first. Run if you have to. But you keep him safe. Always, Claire promised. She didn't know then how soon she'd have to keep that promise. 5 weeks after Claire became Oliver's caregiver, everything changed on a Friday night. The signs started small. More security guards patrolling the grounds. Nathaniel spending longer hours in his office with men in expensive suits and cold eyes. Conversations that stopped when Claire entered rooms. Claire noticed but didn't ask. That was the agreement. She focused on Oliver, who was thriving. His glucose levels were stable. He'd made 2 friends at school. He smiled more. Friday afternoon, Oliver came home excited about a birthday party invitation. Tommy's turning 10 next Saturday. Can I go, please? Claire checked with Nathaniel that evening. He was in his office, studying documents he flipped over when she knocked. A birthday party? He frowned. Where? Laser tag place downtown. Tommy's parents will be there. No. Nathaniel, he needs normal experiences. I said no. His voice was sharp. Not right now. Claire saw the tension in his jaw, the way his hand rested near his phone. Is something wrong? Nothing you need to worry about. Just tell Oliver no. Oliver took the news badly. He didn't cry, but his disappointment was worse. He just nodded and went to his room. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. At 11:47 p.m., her phone buzzed. The glucose monitor app. Oliver's blood sugar was dropping. 72, then 65. Claire grabbed the emergency glucose gel and rushed through the connecting door. Oliver's room was empty. Her heart stopped. The bathroom door was closed. She knocked. "Oliver, I'm okay," came his muffled voice. "Just checking my sugar." It felt low. Claire waited until he came out, checking his glucose herself. 58, dangerously low. "Gel, now." She handed him the tube and watched him squeeze it into his mouth. 15 minutes later, his levels climbed to 82. "Safe. You did good," Claire said. "You felt the symptoms and acted." "I was scared," Oliver admitted quietly. "What if I'd been asleep? That's why we have the monitor. It would have alarmed." But Claire made a mental note to adjust his evening insulin dose. She was walking back to her room when she heard it. A soft sound from downstairs, like something scraping against metal. Claire froze. The sound came again, deliberate, wrong. Then she smelled it. Something sharp, chemical. Claire ran back to Oliver's room. "Get up, now. What's wrong?" "I don't know yet, but we need to find your dad." She grabbed Oliver's emergency kit. "Come on." They went into the hallway. The smell was stronger now, and there was smoke, thin wisps curling up the staircase. "Fire," Oliver whispered. The alarm should have been screaming. They were silent. Claire's training kicked in. Get Oliver out. She pulled him toward the back staircase, the one servants used. The door was locked from the outside. "The main stairs," Oliver said, voice shaking. They ran back. The smoke was thicker now. Claire pulled her shirt over her nose, kept Oliver close. They reached the top of the stairs. Below, in the foyer, she saw them. 3 men in dark clothes. One was pouring something from a container. Another checking his watch. The third had a gun in his belt. They were going to burn the house down, with everyone inside. Claire pulled Oliver back before they could be seen. Her mind raced. Nathaniel's room was on the other side of the house. "Claire," Oliver's hand gripped hers. "I'm scared." "I know, me too. But we're getting out." She pulled him back down the hallway. Windows. They could break a window, climb down. They were halfway down the hall when a figure stepped out of the shadows. "Helena, going somewhere?" Her voice was cold. In her hand, a phone. "Get out of the way," Claire demanded. "I don't think so. See those men downstairs? They're here because of information I provided. Schedules, security codes, alarm systems." Helena's smile was bitter. "Did you know my brother owes $200,000 to people who don't forgive debts? They offered to wipe it clean. All I had to do was help them get to Nathaniel Winters. By killing everyone in the house? Collateral damage." Helena shrugged. "Nothing personal." Oliver made a small sound. Claire felt him sway. She checked her phone. His glucose was dropping again. The stress. "He's just a child," Claire said. "Whatever you're angry about, he's innocent. Nobody in this family is innocent." But Helena's eyes flickered to Oliver. For just a moment, something crossed her face. Doubt. Claire didn't think. She pushed Oliver behind her and charged. Helena wasn't expecting it. They collided, stumbling. The phone clattered to the floor. "Run!" Claire shouted to Oliver. "Nathaniel's room! Get your dad!" Oliver hesitated for only a second, then ran. Helena recovered, shoving Claire against the wall. "You stupid girl!" The gunshot was deafening. Both women froze. Then came shouting from downstairs. More gunshots. The sounds of a fight. Nathaniel's security had arrived. Helena's face went white. She released Claire and ran for the servants' staircase. Claire stumbled toward Nathaniel's wing. The smoke was thicker here. She found Oliver pressed against Nathaniel's door, pounding on it. The door flew open. Nathaniel stood there in black tactical gear, gun in hand, face like death itself. Behind him, Murphy and 2 other guards. "They're in the house," Claire gasped. 3 men downstairs. Helena helped them. She locked the back stairs. Nathaniel grabbed Oliver, checked him for injuries with swift movements. Then he looked at Claire. "You got him out." "I tried. Helena stopped us." Helena. The word was a death sentence. Nathaniel handed Oliver to Murphy. Safe room. Now, both of them. Oliver's blood sugar is dropping, Claire said. Stress-induced. I need to monitor him. Nathaniel's jaw clenched. Murphy. Take them. Code is 0428. Don't open it for anyone but me. Murphy led them through the smoke, down a different hallway Claire had never noticed. He pressed a panel that looked like wall, and a door opened. Inside was a reinforced room. Water. First aid kit. Communications equipment. Stay here, Murphy said. Mr. Winters will handle it. He closed the door. The lock engaged with a heavy thunk. Claire immediately checked Oliver's glucose. 64 and falling. She grabbed juice from her kit, made him drink. His hands were shaking. Is Dad going to be okay? Oliver asked. Yes. Claire had no idea if that was true, but she said it anyway. They heard muffled sounds through the reinforced walls. Shouts, more gunshots. Then, after what felt like hours, silence. Oliver's glucose stabilized at 78. Claire held him, feeling his heart race. The lock disengaged. The door opened. Nathaniel stood there, smoke-stained, a cut above his eyebrow, but alive. Dad! Oliver launched himself at his father. Nathaniel caught him, held him so tight Oliver squeaked. I've got you. You're safe. Over Oliver's head, his eyes met Claire's. You protected him. I promised I would. Helena. She ran. We'll find her. His voice was flat. The 3 men downstairs won't hurt anyone again. Claire didn't ask what that meant. Nathaniel finally released Oliver, keeping one hand on his shoulder. The house is secure. Fire's out. It didn't spread far. But we're not staying here tonight. Where are we going? Oliver asked. Somewhere safe. Somewhere I should have taken you long ago. Nathaniel looked at Claire. Pack essentials. We leave in 20 minutes. As they left the safe room, Claire saw the hallway. Scorch marks on walls. Broken glass. Evidence of violence being cleaned by staff who worked with military efficiency. This was Nathaniel's world. The world she'd agreed to live in. The world where people tried to burn children in their beds. And she'd just promised to stay in it, to keep Oliver safe no matter what. She just hoped she was strong enough to keep that promise. 3 days after the attack, they were in Nathaniel's secondary property, a fortified compound an hour outside the city that looked like a ranch, but functioned like a fortress. Nathaniel had spent those 3 days hunting, not literally, but the results were the same. He'd found Helena and her brother who owed the debt. When he returned, his eyes were colder than Claire had ever seen them. It's handled, was all he said. Oliver seemed to sense it. He was quieter, drew less, checked his blood sugar obsessively, even when his levels were perfect. Claire sat with him in the compound's library, watching him sketch listlessly. Want to talk about it? She asked. Helena tried to kill us. She smiled at me every day, and then she tried to kill us. I know. How do you know who to trust? His voice cracked. Claire didn't have a good answer. You pay attention to actions, not just words. Helena's actions were always cold, even when she smiled. Your actions have always been kind, Oliver said, even when you're scared. I saw you protect me that night. Always, Claire promised. That afternoon, Nathaniel called her to his office. It was smaller than the one at the mansion, but no less imposing. We have a problem, he said without preamble. The attack wasn't just about Helena's brother's debt. It was organized by the Kozlov family. Russian organized crime. They've been trying to move into my territory for 2 years. Why tell me this? Because you're involved now. You're part of Oliver's life, which makes you part of mine, which makes you a target. He pulled out a file. Mikhail Kozlov. His son, Victor, orchestrated the attack. They wanted to send a message. Claire opened the file. Photos of men in expensive suits. Properties. Associates. What kind of message? That they could reach me. That nothing was safe. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. They failed. And now I'm sending a message back, which is that I will destroy their entire organization if they ever threaten my son again. What happens now? I end this, tomorrow. There's a meeting. Neutral territory, theoretically. Victor will be there. So will I. You're walking into a trap. I'm walking into a war. And I'm going to win it. He turned to face her. While I'm gone, you stay here with Oliver. Murphy and 6 guards will be here. The compound is secure. But if something goes wrong, if somehow they get through, you take Oliver and run. There's a car in the garage, keys in the ignition. Drive to this address. He handed her a card. Don't stop. Don't call. Just drive. Claire took it, hand shaking. What about you? I'll find you when it's over. He paused. If I don't come back, there's money set aside. Enough for you and Oliver to disappear. Start new lives somewhere safe. Nathaniel, I need to know someone will love him, not just protect him. Can you do that? Claire met his eyes. I already do. Something crossed Nathaniel's face. Relief. Gratitude. Something deeper. Thank you. For everything you are. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. She checked on Oliver 3 times, watching him sleep peacefully. At 4 a.m., she heard a vehicle leaving. Nathaniel. Going to war. The day dragged. Claire kept Oliver busy with lessons and games, checked his blood sugar on schedule, pretended everything was normal. But Murphy was tense. The guards were on high alert. Something was coming. At 2:17 p.m., Murphy's phone rang. He answered, listened, his face going carefully blank. Understood. He hung up and looked at Claire. We have movement. Multiple vehicles approaching the compound. They're not ours. Claire's blood went cold. How many? At least 3 cars. Unknown number of hostiles. Murphy pulled his weapon. Get Oliver to the safe room, now. Claire ran. Oliver was in his room, drawing. We need to go. Right now. What's wrong? I'll explain later. Come on. She grabbed his emergency kit, checked that his insulin pens were inside, and pulled him into the hallway. The safe room was in the basement. Reinforced steel door. Communication equipment. Enough supplies for a week. They made it halfway down the stairs when they heard it. Gunfire. Explosions. The sounds of an assault. Faster, Claire urged, pulling Oliver down the remaining steps. They reached the safe room. Claire punched in the code Nathaniel had given her, and the door opened. She locked them inside and immediately checked Oliver's glucose. 112. Elevated but safe. The adrenaline. What's happening? Oliver asked, voice small. Bad people are trying to hurt us, but we're safe here. The door is too strong. They can't get through. What about Dad? Your dad is handling it. He's going to be fine. They listened to the sounds of battle above them. Claire counted the gunshots, trying to determine who was winning. Murphy and 6 guards against unknown numbers. The odds weren't good. Then, silence. Claire held her breath. Oliver gripped her hand so tight it hurt. Footsteps above them, heavy boots, multiple people. The sound of someone trying the safe room door. The lock held. Check every room! A voice shouted. Accented, Russian. Find the boy. Claire's heart hammered. They were inside the compound. Murphy's team had failed. She looked around the safe room for anything useful. There, in the corner. A radio. She grabbed it, turned it on, prayed it worked. This is Claire Hartley. She whispered into it. We're in the safe room. Hostiles inside the compound. Please respond. Please. Static. Then a voice. Murphy's voice. Copy. Hold position. Cavalry en route. ETA 9 minutes. 9 minutes. They had to survive 9 minutes. The footsteps above them stopped directly overhead. There's a hidden door here, someone said. Get the charges. They were going to blast through the door. Claire looked at Oliver, saw the fear in his eyes. She checked her phone. His glucose was spiking. 167. The stress. Listen to me, Claire said quietly. No matter what happens, you stay behind me. You understand? Behind me. Oliver nodded. The explosion was deafening even through the reinforced door. The lights flickered. Dust rained from the ceiling. But the door held. Voices above, angry and frustrated. Another charge. Another explosion. This time, the door cracked. Claire grabbed the only weapon she could find. A crowbar. It was pathetically inadequate against guns, but it was something. The third explosion buckled the door. It hung on twisted hinges, barely attached. A figure appeared in the opening. Young, maybe 30, with cold eyes and a gun. Viktor Kozlov. She recognized him from the file. "Well," he said in heavily accented English, "the boy and his babysitter. How sweet." Claire stepped in front of Oliver, crowbar raised. "Don't." Viktor laughed. "Don't? You're giving me orders?" He aimed his gun at her. "Move, or I shoot through you to get to him. Then shoot through me." Viktor's eyes narrowed. "You would die for him?" Without hesitation. For a moment, Viktor seemed almost impressed. Then he adjusted his aim. "Fine. Have it, The gunshot came from behind him. Viktor's expression turned to surprise. He looked down at the red spreading across his chest, then collapsed. Behind him, Nathaniel stood with a smoking gun, face splattered with blood that wasn't his, eyes like ice and fury combined. "You want my son?" His voice was death itself. "You go through me first." More gunshots, men shouting, then silence. Nathaniel stepped over Viktor's body and into the safe room. He was hurt, Claire realized, favoring his left side, blood soaking through his shirt. "Dad!" Oliver tried to run to him, but Claire held him back. "Let me check him first," she said, already moving toward Nathaniel. "I'm fine," Nathaniel said, but he swayed. "You're shot." Claire guided him to sit. "Oliver, get the first aid kit, the one in the corner." She worked quickly, cutting away Nathaniel's shirt. The bullet had gone through his left shoulder. Clean through. He'd live, but he needed a hospital. "It's over," Nathaniel said, wincing as Claire applied pressure to the wound. "Viktor Kozlov is dead. His father will fall in line or face the same. The Kozlovs are finished. You're also finished if you don't get stitches," Claire said, "and possibly antibiotics." Nathaniel actually smiled through the pain. Bossy. Someone has to be. Oliver sat beside his father, checking his blood sugar automatically. 189, still high. "I'm okay, Dad. Claire kept me safe." Nathaniel reached out with his good arm and pulled Oliver close. She always does. His eyes met Claire's over Oliver's head. "Thank you." Again. For the 100th time. "You came back," Claire said softly. "That's what matters." Murphy appeared in the doorway, limping but alive. "Compound is secure. Hostiles eliminated. We need to get you to the medical facility, sir." As they helped Nathaniel to his feet, Oliver stayed close to both of them. When they walked out of the safe room and up the stairs, he took Claire's hand on one side and his father's on the other. They emerged into chaos, smoke and debris, scorch marks and evidence of the battle fought and won. But they emerged together, all three of them, bloodied but alive. And somehow, Claire thought as she held Oliver's hand and supported Nathaniel's weight, that made all the difference. 2 months later, spring arrived with a gentleness that felt almost foreign after everything they'd survived. The mansion had been repaired, scorch marks painted over, broken windows replaced, security upgraded to military grade. But the real changes were subtler, harder to see unless you knew where to look. Claire stood in the garden, watching Oliver chase Murphy's dog across the lawn. The 9-year-old was laughing, really laughing, in a way that made his whole face light up. His glucose monitor app showed 98. Perfect. His backpack sat nearby, packed with snacks and emergency supplies for school. Normal. They'd built something resembling normal. "He's doing well." Nathaniel's voice came from behind her. He'd recovered from the gunshot wound, though he still favored his left shoulder on cold mornings. His last A1C was 6.2. "Doctor said it's excellent for someone newly diagnosed. He's learned to manage it," Claire said. "Takes his health seriously now." "Because you taught him to." Nathaniel stood beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "His teacher called yesterday, said Oliver's the top of his class in math, making friends, adjusting well." Claire smiled. "He invited 3 kids to his birthday party next week. Remember when he was too afraid to go to Tommy's party?" "I remember." Nathaniel was quiet for a moment. "That was the night everything went wrong. The night I almost lost him." "But you didn't." We didn't. No, we didn't. He turned to look at her. Because of you. Oliver ran up to them, breathless and grinning. Claire, can we go to the lake this weekend? Please? Murphy said he'd teach me how to fish. We'll see. Check your sugar first. Oliver pulled out his glucose meter without argument, pricked his finger, tested. 104. Can we go? If your dad says it's okay. Dad? Oliver looked up at Nathaniel with hopeful eyes. Nathaniel's expression softened in that way it only did around Oliver. Yeah, we can go. All of us. You too? Oliver's excitement doubled. You're coming. Wouldn't miss it. Nathaniel ruffled Oliver's hair. Now go wash up for lunch. Oliver ran off, the dog following. Nathaniel and Claire walked back toward the house together. You're really coming fishing? Claire asked. I'm really coming. I've been delegating more, trusting my lieutenants to handle things. He glanced at her. Someone told me Oliver needs me present, not just alive. Someone was right. They ate lunch in the sunroom. The three of them, plus Rosie, who insisted on joining because she'd made Oliver's favorite pasta. The conversation was easy. Light. Oliver talked about the science project he was building. Nathaniel offered to help with the complicated parts. Claire watched them, father and son, heads bent together over sketches and plans. This was family, not the one she'd been born into, but the one she'd found, or maybe the one that had found her. After lunch, Oliver went to his room for homework time. Claire was heading to her room when Nathaniel caught her arm gently. Walk with me? I want to show you something. They went to a part of the garden Claire rarely visited. Past the roses and fountain, through a gate she'd never seen opened. Inside was a smaller, more intimate garden. Flower beds in full bloom, a bench under a willow tree. Catherine's garden, Nathaniel said quietly. Oliver's mother. I had it locked after she died. Couldn't bear to see it, but last week I had the gardeners restore it. He gestured to the flowers. Lavender, her favorite. And those are gardenias. Oliver loves the smell. It's beautiful, Claire said softly. I want Oliver to remember her, not just the pain of losing her, but who she was, what she loved. Nathaniel sat on the bench. She would have liked you. Catherine had this way of seeing people, really seeing them, like you do. Claire sat beside him. Oliver talks about her more now. Little things, how she'd read to him, how she'd make up silly songs about vegetables to get him to eat. She was good at that. The everyday magic. Nathaniel smiled. Sad, but genuine. I was always the serious one. The one who handled business and danger. She handled light and joy. We balanced each other. You're learning to do both now, Claire observed. I've seen you playing with Oliver, making him laugh. Because I have to be both now. Father and mother. Protector and nurturer. He turned to look at Claire. Except I'm not doing it alone, am I? The question hung between them. No, Claire said quietly. You're not alone. Nathaniel's hand found hers on the bench. I want to make this official. Not just you working here, but you being part of this family. Legally. I've had papers drawn up. Co-guardian. If anything happens to me, Oliver stays with you. And while I'm alive, we make decisions together. About his health, his education, his life. Claire's breath caught. Nathaniel, that's a lot, I know. And you can say no. But I need you to know that you're not staff to us. Your family. Oliver's family. He hesitated. My family. If you want to be. Claire looked at their joined hands. Thought about the journey that had brought her here. From invisible maid to the woman sitting in a dead wife's garden, being offered a place in this complicated, dangerous, beautiful family. Yes, she said. I want to be. Nathaniel's relief was visible. He squeezed her hand gently, then released it. Thank you. For saying yes. For staying. For seeing us. They walked back to the house together. Oliver was at the window waving at them. When they came inside, he had something behind his back. I made something, he announced. This was becoming his favorite phrase. He pulled out a drawing. 3 figures again. But this time, they were more detailed. The tall man had a small scar over his eyebrow. The woman had hair pulled back in a ponytail. The boy had a medical device on his arm. They were standing in a garden with flowers, and above them was a bright sun. At the bottom, Oliver had written, "My family. Dad, Claire, and me." Claire's eyes burned with tears she didn't try to hide. Nathaniel put his arm around Oliver's shoulders, pulling him close. "Can we hang it in the living room?" Oliver asked. "So everyone can see? We can hang it wherever you want," Nathaniel said, voice rough with emotion. That evening, after Oliver went to bed, Claire stood in her room looking at the photo she'd taken of the drawing. She thought about Mrs. Patterson, who she still visited every week, bringing groceries and stories, about her mother, who'd taught her to pay attention when others didn't, about the path that had led from a studio apartment to this room, this family, this life. A knock on her door pulled her from her thoughts. Nathaniel stood in the hallway, looking uncertain. "Oliver's asleep. I checked his glucose. 102. Perfect. Good." I wanted to say something. Earlier in the garden, I didn't say everything. He took a breath. "Catherine was my wife, the love of my life, and when I lost her, I thought that was it. No more room in my heart for anything but Oliver and business and survival." Claire waited, not sure where this was going. "But you," Nathaniel continued, "you came into our lives, and you didn't just save Oliver. You saved me. You reminded me that I could be more than just a man afraid of losing what little I had left. You showed me what family could be again." He paused. "I'm not asking for anything. I'm just saying thank you for being exactly who you are." "You don't have to thank me," Claire said softly. "You gave me a family too. A purpose. A home." Nathaniel nodded. "Good night, Claire." "Good night." He walked away, and Claire closed her door. She looked around her room, at the photo of Oliver's drawing, at the medical textbook she'd been studying, planning to get proper nursing certification, at the life she'd built. 6 months ago, she'd been a maid who barely existed. Now she was a mother in everything but name, a protector, a healer, a vital part of something bigger than herself. Sometimes, she thought, saving someone's life means watching for symptoms others ignore, but sometimes it means so much more. It means staying. It means building trust one day at a time. It means becoming family not through blood, but through choice and presence and love. Claire got ready for bed, setting her alarm for 6:30 a.m. Tomorrow would start the same way as always, checking Oliver's glucose, making breakfast, walking in the garden, the beautiful routine of keeping a child safe and healthy and loved. And she wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.